Hi, and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. I'm Greg Galitzine, Editorial Director of TMC and TMC Net. With me today, my guest is Carl Ford, Vice President of Crossfire Media. Carl, welcome.
Thank you, Greg.
How are you today?
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, today is a very special day. Today marks the launch of a brand new event and a brand new brand, something called 4G Wireless Evolution. 4G Wireless Evolution comprises a website as well as an event, and Carl is here to tell us a little bit more about that. So, Carl, what do you hope to achieve with the 4G Wireless Evolution event?
Okay, the 4G Wireless Evolution event, as you know, our worlds were always kind of interesting overlaps. And one place where I was always very strong was with the wireless community. And with my old days of working for Verizon, what became Verizon, and Telcordia, and working on the first soft switch and that kind of stuff. So one of my goals was to basically talk about where we're heading in the future. And we're right at a place right now where we followed the internet for the first decade from like 96 to 2005, and now the internet is becoming a wireless internet, and people are looking for higher speeds, more capabilities, all this great stuff. So my hope is that we're going to kind of follow what the internet's doing to wireless now and how it's impacting the consumer and the business-oriented use of the wireless internet.
Okay. So the event will be taking place in Miami Beach in February 2nd to the 4th of 2009.
Which coincides with ITEXPO, which is a nice synergy that we've got there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how many people do you expect will attend the inaugural 4G WE event?
We're looking for basically 150 to 250 paid, and then about 1,000 people that we expect to be on the floor, just generally looking around at what's going on at ITEXPO, and also looking at our area on the floor.
Right, right. Okay, very good. So, what are some of the subjects that you expect the conference goers will be able to, to hear about, to learn about on the conference program?
Well, the big issue that a lot of us are facing these days is, as you talk about it as an evolution, the reason why you mention evolution is because things aren't quite clear yet. Verizon has promised that by 2010 in New York City they're going to have LTE deployed. But what that really means and how they're going to roll that out is not quite clear in terms of how they're going to make it work with their existing network infrastructure. Is it going to be on the 700 megahertz, which is the bandwidth they just purchased,
right,
and how are they going to roll it out in general? And one of the more interesting aspects is Verizon's kind of at the point where everybody is at, which is we've kind of saturated the market with wireless. I mean, Tom Moresco from Telcordia talks about the fact that his 8th grade daughter was the last girl in her junior high school to have a cell phone.
Right.
And when you saturate it to the point where 8th graders have got cell phones, you got to look for new ways to grow the marketplace. And the new ways to grow the marketplace are things like smartphones, are one obvious answer. Another answer is new kinds of devices, not necessarily phones, but gadgets of various varieties, like the Amazon Kindle's a good place.
Right.
And the companies are looking for those kind of strategies on the edge device, and then obviously supporting those kind of devices requires new thinking as well, because it's not just a phone call anymore, it's not just browsing anymore. When does video come into play in terms of collaboration, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's all these combinations together are kind of making business decisions happen in the carriers these days, and we're going to explore what it means and what they're thinking about.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned sort of the 8th grader being the last one in her junior high to get a phone. I've read and I've heard that in places in Europe, in Moscow, for example, there's actually more than one phone or more than one wireless device per person actually out there. So yeah, so it speaks right to your point that certainly the devices are being deployed at such a rate that the market is indeed being saturated. Speaking of Europe, are they, you think, any closer to enjoying the fruits of 4G than we are here in the States?
Well, it's interesting about that is in Europe there's a lot of folks who are using 3G specifically to connect up to their PCs, and it's hard to sit there and tell people a dongle on top of your PC is sexy, right? I mean, it's what's happening on your PC that makes it more valuable.
Sure.
But the two combined make the service happen. In Europe, there's a lot of folks who are trying to deploy the technologies today and give us the high-speed apps that we're looking for. We do have some issues, which is that even if you start expanding the 3G network to handle the 4G wireless broadband capabilities, you're not going to reach everybody that wants it automatically. So that brings up things like femtocells and those kind of devices where you put them in the home and you make it so that you backhaul and get the high speed through the backbone and that kind of stuff. And that's been kind of taking off in various places, and a lot of folks like that stuff.
Sure.
So it's really kind of user driven though, right? You know, it's one house at a time, one service at a time. You know, you mentioned the fact that people have multiple phones. What makes you choose which phones to use, right? I have a G phone, I've got a BlackBerry, and I've got a Kindle, right? Now the Kindle you don't count as a phone, but they're all wireless devices. And the real question is how are we going to make these choices? Is it going to be one service provider, multiple service providers? You know, I'm crazy enough to, you know, wait for the BGP for my cell phone, you know, when I can go to 2 different service providers on VoIP.
Right.
But I don't think I'm going to see that, certainly not by 2011.
Right, right. Speaking of seeing applications, we just recently had Sprint launched their Zone network in Baltimore. Some critics will say that's just sort of a heavy 3G or 3G plus. But you know, they consider it 4G, and certainly the press are writing about it as 4G. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm a big Sprint fan in terms of what they were doing with their WiMAX rollouts and things like that. I'm very curious about how Clearwire comes into play. You know, our intention at the show is to have Clearwire speak with Paul Kaputska moderating them, and you know, we're looking to have the general discussion about what the rollouts really are going to mean. I'm actually hoping that Miami is on the schedule of the footprint that's converting over. I'm hoping that we'll be able to use some of those dongles to have people demo things on the floor as a result.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Okay, so thank you very much, Carl. So once again, the event is 4G Wireless Evolution, or 4GWE. It'll be taking place in February in Miami Beach. That's February 2nd to the 4th in Miami Beach. And that's it. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.